everybody, it's Miss Katie. Today, we are actually going to start off Sunday school with a little activity. So what you're going to need for this activity are some popsicle sticks, some craft sticks, and something to put them in, like a hat, a jar, something like that. And if you don't have any popsicle sticks or craft sticks, that's okay. You can tear strips off of a piece of paper and use that instead. What you're going to do is you're going to get something to write with, marker, pen, pencil, whatever, and you're going to write a joke on a strip of paper. I've written my joke on here. It says, "What do you call a dinosaur that's sleeping?" So you can't steal my joke now. And then you're going to write the punchline to the joke on the other side of either your craft stick or your popsicle stick or your piece of paper. So my punchline to my joke, what do you call a dinosaur that's sleeping, is you call it a dinosaur. And so we'll do that, make up a couple of those. You can do it by yourself or with whoever's with you, your family, your friends, if your friends are over. And then you can take turns pulling sticks or pieces of paper out of your jar or your hat or whatever you want, and take turns telling each other jokes. And then once you're done, I want you to think about this question. Who is the funniest person you know? So go ahead. I'll give you a couple of minutes to get all of that done. You can pause me and then come back. Today, we are going to hear about a woman named Sarah who thought God was joking, but he wasn't. We can trust God, even when he works in surprising ways. So I am so glad that you all are here today and you're ready to celebrate. So let's start with a song.
There
today we are discovering that we can trust God. That's our Bible point. So every time you hear the words, we can trust God, point up and say, trust God. So let's try that together. We can trust God. Good. God always keeps his promises, and sometimes he comes through in surprising ways. I promise, no matter what comes our way, we can trust God. So let's sing a song about that.
Everything he does, he keeps his promises, we know because, yeah, the word of the Lord holds true. We can trust him, we can trust him, yeah, the word of the Lord holds true. We can trust him, we can trust him, yeah. Oh, yeah. One thing we can count on, it's God will never let us down, and we can trust everything he does. He keeps his promises, we know because, yeah, the word of the Lord holds true. We can trust him, we can trust him, yeah, the word of the Lord holds true. We can trust him, we can trust him. Yeah, the word of the Lord holds true. We can trust him. We can trust him. Yeah, the word of the Lord holds true. We can trust him. We can trust him. We can trust him. We can trust him.
Let's visit with our Bible memory buddy. It's Ray, and she is a giant manta ray. How much do you think you know about manta rays? Let's find out with the This or That challenge. You hear 2 fun facts about manta rays, and it's up to you to decide which is true, this fact or that. The name manta comes from a Spanish word. Does manta mean blanket or float? Come up with your idea. What do you think it is? Call it out. And give me a drum roll. Manta is the Spanish word for blanket. So let's watch our Bible Memory Buddy video to find out more.
Hey friends, it's me. I'm Ray, and I'm a giant manta ray. The name manta comes from a Spanish word that means blanket. Can you see why? This blanket glides through the day, enjoying God's great blue ocean. We giant manta rays like to hang out in shallow water during the day. Then we dive down into the deep end of the sea at night. What about you? Do you like the shallow end or the deep end of the pool? I'm one of the world's largest fish, and I tell the world's funniest fish jokes. Want to hear some? What fish are musical? Tuna fish.
La la la.
What do you call a fish with no eyes? A fish. Get it? The letter I is missing. One more. What fish is most valuable? A goldfish. It feels good to laugh, doesn't it? Trusting God puts a smile on your face. God always keeps his promises. Now that's something to brighten any day. In the Bible book of Psalms, chapter 33, verse 4, it says, For the word of the Lord holds true, and we can trust everything he does. In the Bible, a woman named Sarah had a good chuckle too. She was as old as a grandma, so she thought the idea of having a baby was pretty funny. But God's promise came true, and she had a baby boy. Sarah and her husband Abraham named the boy Isaac, which means laughter. It's fun to look back and see how God keeps his promises. Maybe you needed friends and God was with you. Or maybe you were scared and God comforted you. Or perhaps you asked God for help and he answered in a surprising way. We may not see or realize that God's working in our lives, but he is. So, keep an eye out for God's promises to come true for you. You can, because you're not a fshh. We can trust God.
The Bible is God's true story of love. Each book of the Bible is made up of chapters and verses. Chapters are longer, and verses are usually about one sentence. Our Bible memory verse is Psalm 33:4. Let's say the verse together. I'll say a line, and then you repeat after me and do the motions that I do. For the word of the Lord holds true, and we can trust everything he does. That's Psalm 33, verse 4. We can trust God. We trust that he loves us no matter what. We can trust God, but it's hard to trust when we don't understand. In today's Bible story, we'll hear about a man and a woman who didn't quite understand God's promise. I want you to stand up and imagine that very, very important people are about to enter the room. So go ahead. I want you to take a second to get the space that you're in ready for these very special people to arrive. You can go into cleaning mode, super clean mode. Sweep your floor, pretend to wash the windows, dust the ceiling fan, and then you can pretend you don't have to take a real shower. You can pretend to take a shower, wash yourself up, wash your hair, scrub your body, make sure to get under your pits because you're kind of stinky. And then once you're all done, our room is nice and clean. You can take a seat. We meet Abraham in the book of Genesis in the Bible. His name used to be Abram, but God changed it when he made Abram a special promise. God said Abraham would have a big family, and they'd play a special part in God's plan. And it started with a baby. But it took a long, long time for the promise to come true. Day after day, year after year, Abraham and Sarah, his wife, got older and older, waiting and waiting to have a baby. It may have seemed like God had forgotten. Then one day, something happened. That's where today's Bible story begins. 3 important visitors showed up when Abraham wasn't ready. He had to, well, we'll find out. Imagine Abraham is sitting in the doorway to his tent. Suddenly, Abraham looks up and sees 3 very important visitors. Abraham leaps up to his feet and runs to bow to them. Let's all take a bow like Abraham. Then Abraham invites them inside to have a meal with him. The visitors agree, so Abraham runs home and tells Sarah to bake some bread. Abraham takes all the food to the visitors and they eat the feast. Let's pretend to chow down on some good food. One of the visitors says, I'll be back this time next year, and by then you and Sarah will have a son. Now, Sarah is in another tent eavesdropping. She's got her hands behind her ear so she can hear better. So let's listen with Sarah. Put your hand behind your ear. So much time has gone by, and Sarah's way past the age where she can have kids. When she hears what the visitor says, she laughs to herself. So let's all, laugh to yourself. Now laugh out loud. Even louder than that. Nice job laughing. Let's find out what Sarah said to herself as she chuckled. This is Genesis 18, verses 12 through 14. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I am worn out and my husband is old, will I now have the pleasure of having children?" Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child now that I'm old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Nothing is too hard for God. That's why we can trust God. Abraham and Sarah had been waiting and waiting, but it just didn't seem like the promise would come true. Maybe you know what that's like. Maybe you're waiting and trusting God right now for something to happen. So let's talk about that. Go ahead with whoever you're with right now, join up and talk about this question. And if you're by yourself, you can just think about it or write it down. What is something you're waiting for? No matter what we're waiting for, we can trust God. Well, back to the story. The visitors finish eating and go on their way. Goodbye. Let's wave goodbye to our visitors. But a year later, guess what Sarah's doing? She is rocking a little baby boy in her arms. That's what. Let's go ahead, babble like babies. But how did that happen? Let's find out. This is Genesis chapter 21, verses 1 and 2. Now the Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised. Sarah became pregnant and bore a son to Abraham in his old age, at the very time God had promised. Sarah named her son Isaac, which means he laughs. No wonder Sarah trusted God. God kept his promise to her. We can trust God. God always keeps his promises. So I want you to, again, get together with somebody that you're with or think by yourself and write it down. And think about these questions. How does it feel when you're told that you have to wait for something? And how is that like or unlike Abraham and Sarah waiting for God's promise to come true? So for our next activity, I know we get 2 activities today, that's really exciting. I want you to get a Bible. Either you can use a Bible app on your computer, on your tablet, if you have a phone, on your phone, or you can open up a book, open up the Bible, and find Genesis, which is the first book, chapter 17, verses 4 through 6, and then also verses 15 and 16. So go ahead, pause me, take a minute to find those, and then we will read them together. As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. God also said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her, and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her." So names were a big deal in Bible times. They told who someone was, but they also hinted at what that person would become. Abram means the father is exalted, or Abram means the father is exalted, and Abraham means father of many nations. Sarah's name changed too. from Sarai to Sarah, and Sarah means princess. God's promise changed their lives and their names. So let's find out what our names mean. So for this activity, you're going to want to get a piece of paper. It can either be just a blank white page, or you can use construction paper. And I want you to get markers, crayons, colored pencils, whatever you want. We are going to make name posters. I have made them. I don't have markers or fun paper in my dorm, but I made one for myself. This might be backwards. You might not be able to read this. But what you're going to do is write your name. You can just put your first name, or you can do your middle name too if you have one. And you'll write it out. So my name is Catherine Jane. And then next to it, you're going to look up, if you have a name book, in a name book or online, what your name means. So Catherine means pure or clear. And Jane, see I've written next to it, it means Yahweh, which is another name for God. Yahweh is gracious or merciful. And so then I want you to draw some pictures about what your personality looks like, what your names mean. So I drew a flower because I think that flowers are very pure. I drew a campfire because I like camping. I drew some music notes because I like to listen to music. And then I drew a cross because I can't think of a better way to show God's grace and mercy than through the cross. And so you can go ahead, pause me, take a couple of minutes, make your own name poster, and then you can, I really think it would be super fun if you took pictures of your name poster when you're done and had one of your grown-ups upload it to our members' Facebook page if they are on there. And if not, I would still love to see it some way, shape, or form. Email it to me, text it to me. I would love to see what you were able to come up with this activity. So go ahead, pause me, and come back when you're done. God told Abraham and Sarah that they'd have a baby. Later in God's story, God promised his people that another baby would be born. This baby would be extra special because he would save people from sin. It was Jesus. So I'd like to read you something about our friend Jesus. As you listen, please sit nice and quiet. If you're with somebody, lock your pinkies together. If not, you can lock pinkies with yourself, fold your hands, so that you're making a pinky promise between you and Jesus. And then close your eyes and listen as I read to you a little bit about Jesus. If you've ever had someone not keep a pinky promise, you know the truth. Sometimes promises aren't worth very much. People mean to keep their promises, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. A promise is only as good as the person who makes it, and God's promises can be trusted. God has kept his promises no matter what. He's never fumbled or forgotten a promise. A long time ago, God promised to send a rescuer to save people from their sins. He kept that promise when he sent his only son and our friend, Jesus. And here's good news. God has made promises to you. Jesus promised to love his friends, to give them peace and joy, and to never, ever forget them. You can trust Jesus to keep his promises. Every promise, every time. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.